Greetings, this is Mr. Caslin. I wanted to help solve this polynomial that was sent to me. Though I wonder if you can double check to see if this is what I got in the email. I want to see if you double check that, because to solve this one, you can't solve it by means that they would know in an Algebra 1 class. So I'm wondering if one of these numbers or one of these terms was a different sign, because if we change this to a negative, we'll be able to solve this polynomial. But this is how we're going to do it. We're going to set everything equal to 0. So we would subtract 12x from this side. We're also going to add 36 to this side. All right, whatever we do to the right-hand side, we have to do to our left-hand side. So we're going to balance our equation. We would get a 3x to the third minus 9x to the second. On the left-hand side, you'd end up with a negative 12x, a positive 36. That's given that we've changed this now to start out with a negative. So we'd add 36 to both sides. All right. So Nikki, when you're factoring or solving an equation, you have 4 terms, and none of them are like terms. You're going to use your factor by grouping. Okay, when you factor by grouping, split them down the middle, and you're going to do a greatest common factor on the left-hand side and a greatest common factor on the right-hand side. All right, so the greatest common factor of these two terms, you'd end up with a 3x to the second power. All right, on this side, you're going to factor out, since the first term is negative, always factor out a negative here. We're going to factor out a negative 12. Okay, so when you're factoring out, it's the same as dividing. 3x to the third divided by x, 3x to the second power is just x. And then a negative 9x to the second divided by 3x to the second is a negative 3. Over here, you're dividing this by negative 12. You get an x. And then 36 divided by a negative 12 gives you a negative 3. All right, and when you do factor by grouping, you know you've done it correctly when what's inside the parentheses match. Okay, and you know when they match, that's going to be one of your factors. Okay, now if you ignore those x minus 3's, look at what's left over. Okay, what's left over is 3x to the second minus 12. And remember, this is an equation. It's all equal to 0. All right, now you're going to use your zero product property to solve your equation. What makes x minus 3 equal to 0? Well, that's the easy one. You're going to get x is equal to 3. Over here, you're going to have to solve this. So just don't try to do it in your head, just make an equation out of it. 3x to the second minus 12 is equal to 0. Okay, you'll add 12 to both sides. So you get 3x to the second is equal to 12. Don't take the square root yet. You got to get rid of this coefficient. We're going to divide by 3. Get x squared is equal to 4. All right, you're solving an equation, and to get rid of a square, you're going to do the opposite of that. The opposite or inverse of squaring is square rooting. Now be very careful here. When in algebra and algebra 2, the most common mistake made in all problems is when you're solving an equation by square roots, don't forget there's a positive and negative answer to this. So x is going to be equal to 2. That's the obvious one. And the one that people forget is x is equal to negative 2. Because negative 2 times negative 2 is also positive 4. So you have an x to the third. I don't know if you've talked a lot about this yet, but if you have an x to the third, you're going to have 3 solutions to that. positive 3, positive 2, negative 2. And if you graph it on your calculator, you're going to see it cross the x-axis in those 3 places. All right, now I don't know if so. I'm assuming this is what this problem was slightly different. But when you have 4 terms, when you have a x to the third, an x squared, an x and a constant, you want to, if there's not a greatest common factor, you want to factor by grouping. We could have factored out a 3 here first, but we still would have had 4 terms with 4 different exponents. So you'd still end up factor by grouping. I hope this helps. We'll talk to you later.